But we need to go on with the rest of what we're going to do, so we won't be here all night.
You haven't heard any more, so maybe that's all.
So hopefully you made some new friends, or reacquainted with old friends, some of you, because Mary Jane hasn't been here in a while, but we're glad to have her back. And I would like to go on with the rest of what we're going to talk about tonight.
I said it too fast.
It's fairly, most of it's going to be fairly quick, but so you can visit again when you get done. If you're still eating, that's fine. If you want to come up and get something to eat while we're talking, that's fine too if you're not done. But I would like you to look in your folders on your right-hand side. The top recipe says vegan instant pot mac and cheese. Now that one's not one we did tonight, but the next four underneath are. So thinking about which ones you like, I will tell you which ones are which. Okay? So the baked vegan mac and cheese, which lots of people like, was number one up here. Okay? The mind-blowing one, you know by its name. The classic baked, that's this one. And then the one that's the stove top is this one. And I'm going to play with that one some more because I think I can make it better. So those are the three, the four. And then underneath those, the Greek salad is this one. The cornucopia kale. I am not a kale fan, but I like that salad.
Yes, that's good too.
The black rice and roasted beef was this one. And the protein in that one is quinoa, which is really good for you. And then the vegan Waldorf is the end one. And then the sweet potato pineapple crisp was the one that came and then the bowl is almost empty. That was really good.
Oh, yeah.
I have to make that one. And the easy baked cheesecake is the, so I put the recipes that are on the top, other than the first one, are the ones that you tasted. Behind those are some more recipes that sounded good. Some of them had, like the Southwestern vegan mac and cheese, which sounded good, and I thought, yeah, but I want something that's more like normal mac and cheese. So I threw that one in there, but it uses what's called no cheese sauce, and the no cheese sauce recipe is right behind it. Okay? There's a butternut one with broccoli. That one sounded really good too. And then there's the mac and cheese with roasted veggies. That one uses a vegan queso, and that recipe is behind it, so that you have those. And then there's a couple extra salads and one dessert, more dessert that sounded good when I was going through trying to decide which ones we were going to use this time. And you're going to find that I do that every time we do a cooking class. You're going to get the recipes for what we sampled, but you're also going to get some other recipes that you might want to try. Or not. It's up to you. But I want to talk now about the things that are on the other side of the page. How many of you know what a roux is? Oh, yay. Most people do if they've ever made gravy. You know what a roux is, okay? So roux are usually butter and flour and milk. And if you're trying to get away from butter and milk, that's not a very good way to do it. So you have a little sheet in there, but I was surprised because the one I used the most, they didn't even put in here. So they're talking about thickening soups. How many of you like, on a cold winter day, a soup that's thick and yummy and creamy? They're the ones that I always go to when I want. Those are my comfort food. I like to make corn potato chowder and those kinds of things.
All the chowders.
Yeah, all the chowders. So they had some ideas for thickening soups that I thought were really pretty good instead of using a roux. One of them was to put mashed potatoes in it because the potatoes add thickening to it. Another one was to use whole wheat couscous and actually put it in at the end of your cooking and let it cook at the end, and it soaks up some of the moisture and it gets soft and chewy. But that's more of a chewy texture, not a creamy texture. They also talked about using pureed beans or hummus throwing that in. That would thicken up the soup nicely too. Ground chia seeds, I just can't picture it personally, but they say you can. I mean, I use,
Putting that way, but not.
yeah, I use chia seeds to replace eggs, but I've never tried using them as a thickener in soup. You would have to gellify them and then get them to melt, to thin back out in the soup, and I just can't
It
quite
works,
picture it.
it works for pies and custard, or like,
Yeah.
pies and pastries,
Mhm.
or in brownies, or things like that.
What happened to the black spots?
You don't really taste it in, like, if you're doing like a,
But do you see
like
it?
a rustic pie or a pie,
But do
or
you
a
see it?
pudding, you can see it, but,
I see it, that's.
yeah.
Okay, she's visual, so that visual doesn't work.
The chocolate one, yeah.
Yeah, on the back side of that page, you'll see it has thickening by putting in croutons and letting them soak up the moisture, and then your soup becomes thicker because the moisture's been absorbed. It's kind of like when my dad used to crumble crackers into the soup and make it thicker, same premise. The one they didn't do, and the one that I always use when I want chowder of some sort, whatever kind I'm making, is you throw some water in a blender and you throw some cashews in a blender and you make this nice thick cashew cream and you pour it in and it thickens up soup beautifully.
How about tapioca?
Tapioca would work too, as long as you don't, you're talking about seeing, you're gonna see the little jelly things.
No,
Unless you
powder.
use the powder. I have never
It
tried
turns
tapioca.
slimy.
I use it all the
I
time.
think it would be
because see,
slimy.
It's
It
like,
turns
no,
slimy
it's
once
not.
you cook it.
No,
Once you- Yeah, I've had it.
no, it depends on what you do with it. But if
It
you,
depends, yeah.
if you thicken sauce or gravy or whatever with tapioca,
Mhm.
it is pretty much the same as using cornstarch.
Okay, so when I used arrowroot powder in, what did I use? Oh, to thicken, I thought about that afterwards. When I thickened up the juice on the cherries, I thought, oh, I don't want to use cornstarch. And I knew I had arrowroot powder, so I used arrowroot powder, although I never had, and I didn't like it because it doesn't go clear like cornstarch does. And then as I'm putting that back in the cupboard, I saw the bag of tapioca powder and went, oh, I guess I could have used
Yeah,
that.
you should do that.
But, you know. So anyhow, there are some ideas. Cashews is another idea you might want to remember. The next thing in your packet below that.
Can I tell you something about a roux?
Sure.
Okay. If you cook for a lot of people and you make a cream sauce or a cream chowder or whatever, you make your roux with water instead of milk. Because if you use a big pot and you're making a big roux, it's gonna burn on the
On the
bottom.
bottom.
So what you do is you do it with water. And then afterward, when it's done cooking, when your flour is done cooking,
Mhm.
you add powdered milk. Any kind you want. And you whisk that in, and you've got a perfect white sauce.
For white
That's
sauce.
interesting.
Yeah.
As long as you want dairy.
No, you can use
Soy milk
Soy
powder
milk.
too?
coconut powder. Yeah, soy milk powder. Just add it in there.
Interesting.
Yes, it's perfect. You can even use coffee creamer, which is really unhealthy.
But it tastes really good, probably.
Another one of those addicting things. Okay. The next sheet down below that is how to adapt a stovetop recipe for an Instapot. And basically, when I read through this article, the biggest thing to remember is you can probably take just about any recipe that you're used to making without using an Instapot and make it in an Instapot, as long as it's something that normally would take 30 minutes or more to cook. If it takes less than that to normally cook, you might run into some problems doing it in an Instapot. But if it's something that you would normally put on the stove for a long period of time,
Just lay it on there.
It's what you guys were talking about a little bit ago.
Yeah.
You got ahead of me. So evidently, Instapots have 3 non-pressurized settings, which are saute, slow cook, and keep warm. And so those, if you read through, it tells you where those might come in handy. It says to stick to stovetop for veggie dishes that cook in times of under 15 minutes. Or things that ask you to brown something or to sear something or to cook something till it's crispy. You're not going to get till crispy in an Instapot.
Unless you got a Ninja Instapot.
Do Ninja Instapots do crispy?
Yes,
Okay then. This is
It's got the
just,
air fryer spot. It's got the air fryer.
oh, so it's an air fryer and an Instapot thing.
Instapot has that.
And it
Yeah,
but steamed.
and it works. You just do it second.
Okay. After you've done the first part, then you did that part and then.
Yeah, you get it cooked and then
Then you crispy it?
uh-huh.
Oh, cool. All these fancy things that I don't use.
Oh, you should crispy stone.
I know, you guys that have them think they're wonderful. Well, and it freaks me, and I
You
have
should
to,
borrow mine.
confession time.
Yeah, you should
You
borrow
guys
it.
bring your Instapots to potluck and you plug them in out there and they're set on whatever it is they're set on. You will not see me bringing them out here because I'm afraid to touch them because I don't know how they work.
I have to show you. You can borrow mine and try it out.
Lorraine, it took me 2 years.
I had to talk her into it, and then I did, and
I
then guess
bought-
what?
I know Harold uses his a lot
Oh, yeah.
because he brings lots of things to potluck in it and I just look at it and go,
Well, it's
Except for the other day, a few weeks back, there was one, he brought it and it was like, okay, I know if I do this, I can take the lid off. So I took the lid off and it was ice cold still inside. So I had to take it and put it in a pot and warm it and then put it back in the pot. Because he forgot to do something he was supposed to do when he plugged it back in when he got it here. And I don't know how to make them work. So yes, Harold.
One of the challenges with the Instapot and potlucks is that I usually do the cooking on Friday, bring it to potluck on Sabbath, need to reheat it, and if it's kind of a sauce consistency, or it's tricky to reheat it in the Instapot without it starting to burn.
Ah. So it was a good thing that I dumped it in a pot and warmed it up and threw it back in the Instapot. It was the only thing I could think of to do because I was running out of time when I realized it was still cold. Okay, so they have some tips. It says, if you want to know how your recipe works in an Instapot, it's called Google. You go online and you ask for a recipe for that, for an Instapot, and compare it to what your recipe is like and see how it compares. And it'll tell you how to cook it. It says use the preset cooking functions because it says it has settings for soup and broth, it has settings for multi-grain and beans and chili, and it knows how long it has to cook to make that particular thing done. Takes some of the guesswork out.
Except that you do adjust the time depending, for example, depending on what kind of beans you're cooking.
Well, that would make
Some
sense.
beans take longer than others, and so you do need to increase or decrease the
And then
time.
on the back of your sheet there is a neat little, or maybe it's on page 2, a neat little chart. And the chart has how long it would take to cook it on stovetop. And then on the other side, it says how long it would take if you cooked it in a slow cooker, which is what I have, a crock pot in other words. And then in the middle is the pressure cooker. And it tells you, so you can see if you've got something that's going to take you 4 to 6 hours in a crock pot, you can do it in 30 to 45 minutes in an Instapot, which is a whole lot faster. Just for your information, my chili beans will be done in the crock pot and they will cook 6 to 8 hours. Because that's what I have. And if I put them on the stove, I have to burn them, but in the crock pot, I won't. And then it just has some little troubleshooting things down here at the bottom. If, what to do if you found that things are undercooking, or if there's too much liquid, or there's not enough liquid, which is really easy, you just add more. And, but I saw that and I thought, well, there might be some people who are thinking about getting one or having problems with the one they have. I know I was wishing Deneen was here because she has a good, she and I together did her first thing in her Instapot and we were totally confused. But it was edible. It was just the going up and then coming down and we couldn't figure out why it was going to take less time. We figured we could have done it faster in the oven. But, but maybe we were just using the wrong kind of a setting.
Maybe.
Recipe.
One of the things about the Instapot that I don't really like, the old pressure cooker, you finish cooking it, finish the time, you take it over, you put it in the sink, you turn on the water, it cools it off within just a few seconds. With the Instapot, yeah, I've tried putting ice on the top of it, I've tried
No, that doesn't.
putting...
You have to wait till it cools down.
Yeah, it takes time to get down.
Okay, no, wait a minute. Carol says no, you don't, so why not?
You open the vent.
Yeah, some recipes tell you to open the vent immediately.
You just open the
Others
vent
you
and then
wait
it's...
while you stand
But
back.
it doesn't
This
still
is
take
it.
a considerable
And
amount
then
of
you
time.
get the
Once you
steam
open
off
that
of
and you
it.
steam it for it to like
And
actually
what?
You get
release.
the steam off
But it's
of
because
it.
the
True.
pressure
Yeah, and then
cooker
you can
has to
open it.
decrease.
But some of the recipes that
No,
have.
but-
Okay,
Even when you
enough.
open the vent,
Yes.
it still takes several minutes
Oh, yeah.
to come down.
It's longer than...
You know, if the pot is fairly full.
But it smells really good when you do it, so you're all...
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Sounds like we've hit a topic that could really go on for a long time. So we're going to move on. The next thing in your is a cook's guide to fresh chili peppers. Now I know that some people don't like chili peppers, some people do like chili peppers, but the things that I found out about chili peppers and capsicum and capsaicin, which is what's in capsicum, that's good for you, was really interesting to me. All chili peppers and bell peppers belong to the capsicum genus, okay? I can take a bell pepper and I can eat a whole bell pepper all by myself. Especially the yellow ones and red ones and orange ones. Not green ones, but green ones I use cooking more. But I love the others. And they are actually really good for you. And so I want to share a little bit. So all of capsicum, let me see, I gotta remember how to pronounce it. Animum. It's one of those words that has two N's, two U's. Are bell peppers. And bell peppers are not hot, right? No problem with heat with bell peppers, okay?
They're sweet.
They're sweet. But chili peppers, which also belong to that same genus, chili peppers are cayenne, jalapeno, and poblano, okay? Then there's another second group, which is the habaneros and the scotch bonnets and the hot ones, okay?
Ghost peppers.
Yeah, ghost peppers. Has he eaten his ghost pepper jelly yet?
Yeah, he has tried it.
He tried it. I was trying it. Frank loves everything hot. So when I saw some ghost pepper jelly, I thought, Frank! So I gave him some for Christmas. I figured that would curl his hair for you. And I think it did. But capsicum that comes from those chili peppers in the form of, how does I say it? Capsaicin is good for nerve pain, acute and chronic pain, nerve damage caused by shingles, which if you know anybody who's got those are nasty, back pain, cluster headaches, non-allergic rhinitis, runny nose, osteoarthritis, the wear and tear kind on your joints, and surgery-related pain and surgery-related nausea and vomiting. Now, I can attest to the fact that it works for pain, because when I broke my ankle, Rich gave me some, told me to get some, because that was what he was using for his pain from his cancer at that point. And it was working for him, and it did work for my ankle as well. The problem is high concentrations of it have been found for treating chronic pain and other types of pain. Fibromyalgia was even in there in one article that I read. It's also an anti-inflammatory because of the flavonoids that are in it. It's good for respiratory conditions, chronic cough, asthma, COPD even, which I thought was interesting.
Sounds like a better good food.
Now you would not think that something that comes from chili peppers would be good for this, but it's also good for gastrointestinal disorders. They've done some tests with it, and it reduces gut inflammation, and so that helps with your whole gut health. It has even been found to reduce some of the cancers of the GI tract, which is interesting. Now, there's been studies done on this particular article that I'm quoting from. You can go to the studies that they're citing for all these things. Metabolic syndrome, which most people who have diabetes have metabolic syndrome, because metabolic syndrome includes diabetes and heart disease and all those things that cluster together, kidney disease that all cluster together from having diabetes. They have found that it works for that. It lowers cholesterol and blood sugar control. The side effects from it is too much. For some people, it'll cause stomach irritation, especially if you're taking it on an empty stomach. Sweating. I don't think that's why I have that problem, but I think it's more menopausal than it is what I eat. And runny nose, which is interesting because it helps with runny nose, but it can also cause runny nose. But then if you've ever eaten something that's really hot, what does your nose immediately do?
Mm-hmm. So are you talking about capsaicin?
Mm-hmm.
And do you buy that just like as a supplement, or are you talking about eating it, like getting it sourced like through?
You can get it through food.
Seems like you'd have to eat a lot.
You'd have to eat a lot, but you can get. The one thing they cautioned on because currently the only approved form of capsaicin is a skin patch. It has 8% capsaicin in it, which isn't a whole lot of capsaicin. I don't know what else is in the patch besides the capsaicin. But and it does have interactions with some medications, so you have to be careful there. It interacts with aspirin, ciprofloxacin, which is an antibiotic, anti-diabetic drugs, anticoagulants and antiplatelet drugs, and ACE inhibitors. So if you're on any of those, you wouldn't want to take capsaicin. But the sources, of course there's 30 species of peppers, but I don't know how much you would have to eat, although if you used it in lots of different forms in your diet, you would be getting lots of good things from it. It says most of the supplements are naturally vegan and gluten-free, which is good for people who have those dietary restrictions. And the packaging should indicate those two things on it. It's interesting because the Food and Drug Administration is starting to test it because they're finding it so useful in so many different places, which means pretty soon it'll be, when it's approved, once they approve it, then you know that what you're buying has to meet a certain standard. Right now, the problem that they were talking about was that you have to kind of really trust the people who are packaging it and selling it, that they're giving you good quality stuff. I need to find it too. I went to a class once. It was all about herbs and spices and how to use them, both for health and cooking both. And the lady gave us a website that you could go to, that you could put in brands of whatever, and they would tell you whether it was a good brand or a bad brand and how it, because most supplements that are of a natural source,
They mix it.
they, you know, you really have to have a manufacturer that you feel comfortable with, that is going to, that you trust their brand, that what they say is in there, and that the percentages are accurate.
You know, if you find a powder, you can always buy these empty capsules
Yeah,
and fill them up and drink the capsules.
yeah,
I know people that do that.
yeah, that's always true. I thought one of the things was interesting though is and Harold brought up an interesting question because I pointed out to him that I put up here what's in 1 cup of chopped red bell pepper. Now this is red bell pepper, this isn't the capsaicin that we're looking for, okay? This is just what's in a bell pepper. Think about 1 cup of chopped red bell pepper, okay? It has 1.5 grams of protein, it has a half a gram of fat, it has 9 grams of carbohydrate, 3 grams of fiber, 191 milligrams of vitamin C, 10 milligrams of calcium, a little over a half a milligram of iron, 18 milligrams of magnesium, 39 milligrams of phosphorus, 0.4 milligrams of zinc, 69 micrograms of folate, and 234 micrograms of vitamin A. Now,
Multivitamin capsule. It's a multivitamin
it's a
capsule.
multivitamin right there. Here you go. Vitamins and minerals. So you have all this wonderful stuff in one. Now Harold asked me when I showed him what I had on the board. He said, well, how does that compare to a green bell pepper? And I had to tell him I didn't know because the article that I had only had red bell pepper in it. But we do know from the class that we did a while back when we did the rainbow, eating a rainbow, that each color has certain things that you get from it. And so a green would be a little bit different than this red would be because of the difference. I think you would probably find that the green may have more magnesium in it. Because I think green magnesium was one of the green foods, if I remember correctly. So it may be higher in magnesium than a red bell pepper would be. And I don't know if I have any of those left over there. I don't know if I have any rainbow ones left. I think we've used them all, so they finally all found homes. But peppers are good. Now, in the sheet that you have in your guide, the Cook's Guide to Fresh Chili Peppers, it talks about the fact that the capsaicin is not in the fleshy colored part of the pepper, it's in the veins. So once you cut the vein, it releases that hot, because it's the capsaicin is what makes it hot. But I learned some interesting things as I went through this, and it was talking about, how to prepare them, that unless you're really good at washing your hands really well when you're doing hot peppers, you wear gloves, because otherwise, if you don't, and then you go like this, you're going to be so sorry.
Hours later,
Hours
even
later.
after washing your hands.
Yeah. Yeah. So wearing a pair of gloves when you're messing with peppers is a good thing to do. You always remove the core. Don't keep the core, that's the hottest part. If you're looking for just the flavor of the pepper and not the hot from the pepper, you're not only going to take the core and the seeds out, because that's where the majority of the capsaicin goes once you start cutting on it, but you're also going to take the veins off the side. But what I didn't know was when you cut open a jalapeno pepper or a poblano, because you're going to use it, you can tell how hot it's going to be by the color of those veins. Pure capsaicin is yellow. So the more yellow those veins are, the hotter the pepper is that you're holding in your hand. So if you cut open a jalapeno and it's like, I like the flavor of jalapeno peppers, but I don't like the hot from jalapeno peppers, and I look at those veins and they're nice and bright yellow, it's like, okay, those are going to come off of there right now, because what I want is the meat on the outside and the flavor that's in that on the outside. So you don't necessarily, cooking, I was going to try and use all this wonderful new system that Bob's got hooked up in here now and do you a slideshow on each of the different peppers, but I didn't get that far and he hasn't taught me how to use all his new stuff yet. But when it talks about the different peppers in here, it lists all the ones that you would normally find in the store. And I know that when I go to Winco, gosh, they've got all kinds of peppers in that place. And I'm sitting there going, okay, which one do I want? You know, it tells you that Anaheim and Poblano and these Hatch, which are only available at certain times of the year, are the mild ones, okay? And then when you start getting into the jalapenos, you're now in the medium level. And serranos are medium. These Thai birds are high, but they're the ones that you see in Oriental dishes that make them hot, like my cow chicken and curry, yeah. That's what they're using. Habaneros and Scotch bonnets, those are hot. We were in Mexico one time, and the guy that was doing the tour that we were on, he says, yeah, he says, we've put jalapenos in the baby's milk so that when they get older, they can handle the habaneros.
That seems cruel.
Yeah, it seems cruel to me. But if you're doing the flavor of it, not the heat of it, then you've got a little bit more. But, you know, there are good things that peppers are good for. And if you know how to use them correctly, then you can get the flavor that you want without having to get the heat part, which, of course, he wants the heat. Frank wants the heat. But, so when you can save all your cores and your seeds and just give them to Frank. Yes.
The one thing you didn't mention about habaneros, I learned where I moved from, I couldn't grow other peppers, but habaneros, the deer would not go near, and the gophers didn't bother them either.
I'm sure it's probably the same with like ghost peppers or Carolina Reapers.
Yeah, but,
I should need to tell my daughter that, maybe to keep the deer out of her flower beds.
well, yeah, it did. They go clear around it and go over and eat the petunias.
So that's good.
Yeah, they always eat all of her tulips as soon as they come up and open. But, so there's some good information in here. It tells you what kind of dishes you would use it, which kind of pepper in, and what their heat levels are. And now that you know that you need to look at those little veins when you cut them open to know how hot they're going to be. Which is kind of nice to know, because I've had chili rellenos that have been fabulous, and I've had chili rellenos that I've taken one bite of and went, okay, I don't think I'm going to eat this one anymore. Because somebody didn't know to look at the veins when they made them. So just some good ideas. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed what we presented tonight. I'd like to know what else you'd like to learn or taste, or so that I'll know what the next one's going to be, so I can figure out the next one. If you have any ideas, you can send them to me. And our next one will be on the, let's see, this is February, March 20 something, whatever the fourth Thursday in March is.
28th.
28th, okay. March 28th will be the next one. Right here, same time, same place. And I will be posting on the usual sites. For people who watch the Facebook thingies. And it will also be on, if any of you get Idaho Patch, it's an email that I don't know how I got on somebody's email list, but they send it out to me. And it comes out daily and it's whatever's going on. And I discovered that I can put my cooking school on there.
Oh,
And it comes up on their events that's coming up. The only problem was this time, and I can't quite figure out why the address was wrong. And I know I didn't put that address in, so that has me a little worried. But somebody was looking at something else and I didn't catch it the first day they posted it, so didn't notice it until today when I looked at it and went, wait a minute, that's not where we're at. So hopefully nobody went to 800 Park Street, because I don't even know where Park Street is.
surprise!
Downtown,
Downtown, yeah.
I'm in the middle of downtown.
Okay. But, and I don't know why it would have said Park Street, because I'm sure I didn't put Park